call the meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. I don't know. Margaret, are you hearing me? Okay, thank you, because I'm not hearing it out here. Okay, I call the meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order at 7 o'clock. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. If anybody's recording the meeting tonight, can they state their name or let us know? I'm not seeing anybody. Thank you. Since we're waiting for the official town warrant to close at 7:10, I look for a motion to recess for 10 minutes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
will there be a time for just like selectmen comments? It's not on the agenda.
We can put it on there.
Okay, I'd like to. Do you want to do that now, or do you want the recess?
We can do that now. That'll be fine.
Okay. Mr. Chair? Just something, two things. One addressed to the public and also my fellow board members. The summer solstice is this weekend, and the parade is, I'm not sure what time the parade is. If I recall, the last few years, they've actually had a viewing stand by the Athol Savings Bank. I know they did last year anyway. I don't know if they do. That was the 250th. I don't know if there's actually going to be a viewing stand. But I would urge the members of the board, if you can, be out there, let people know that that we're there, and I don't know, maybe we ought to march in the parade with a banner or something. I don't know. So just, if you can make it to the solstice, that would be fantastic. The other thing I would like to mention, at the last meeting, I believe it was, I broached a review of the BOS policies and procedures, and it was discussed that we were going to hold off probably until September or October. I would like to have a discussion on that at our next meeting, which is on the 23rd, I believe. I feel that there are certain specific things that have come up in the past few weeks about policies and procedures that we need to address now. Plus also, earlier this evening, the new Charter and Bylaw Review Committee met. They're going to be beginning their work next month. And as a board, there was a lot of talk over the last 6 or 8 months about the role of the Board of Selectmen in town management, and especially if we're going to be going out and starting a search for a permanent town manager. I think we as a board need to get squared away on what we're going to want, what we're going to expect, sooner rather than later. So just informational for you that I've asked Linda to put that on the agenda for next week.
It is on the agenda as of right now.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Amy?
Oh, I'm all set.
Barbara?
Yeah, actually, I think I do. I think I'd like to agree with Audrey that we definitely have to look at some of our policies, and I would rather see them change sooner rather than later. As far as the summer solstice is concerned, if anybody knows, if they want us to march in it, would be happy to. But they need to maybe reach out to us or contact us in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I just threw that out there to be a little
Right.
levity. Mr. Chair, I think we have 11 o'clock. All right, thank you.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Well, we're going for adjournment. I'd first like to introduce the board to Mr. Bernie Lynch, our acting town manager.
Into the mic.
For some reason, my mic is not working very well tonight.
Yeah, try this one.
Yeah, maybe that one over there.
Oh, it's not. How about if I lean over?
There we are.
There we go. Thank you. First, I'd like to introduce our acting town manager, Mr. Bernie Lynch. Welcome.
Thank you.
Since you've arrived, we've had nothing but pleasant surprises. So
we'll try to keep that going.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to be here, and I've enjoyed meeting with everyone that I've already met with, and I do think that we've made some substantial progress in sort of evening things out, and certainly addressing that special education transportation matter was first and foremost on our minds that first day. Myself and Cheryl Wright, the financial person that I brought with me to help out, and working with the accounting office, I think we're making some great strides, as we'll talk about when we get to the town meeting warrant, in clearing up that transportation issue, in addressing the FY15 budget situation, and already starting to, I think, make some progress on FY16, which needs some adjustments that will probably happen in the fall, but if we can sort of set up a strategy, I think the town will benefit by that. But thank you for the welcoming, and so far, so good.
Oh, thank you. So I'd like to make a motion for a recess for another 6 minutes.
So moved?
Can I get a second?
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
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 The chair votes aye. We are in recess at 7:06.
It's the first one that comes to mind.
Every town has their ups and
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Like Dennis says.
Let's try this again. Nope, not working? Not working.
It's all about you.
Hello?
Okay. Okay, let's try this again. There we are. Okay, so we're back in session. Just wanted to touch back on some of the procedures and policies that you're really interested in, so the board can get a look at some of them that we can come back to going forward to the meeting next week. So I open the floor to you, Audrey, if anyone else has any suggestions as we're going forward on this particular issue, so everyone can get a handle on what's coming. That would be okay.
Thank you, although I'm not actually prepared, so I'm just going to wing it. Initially, the first one that comes to mind is our policy on public comment section, part of our meetings. I don't have anything specific other than that, but I think we need to look at the role of the Board of Selectmen in their position in the town government. Previously, the charter as it stands now gives the town manager, whoever is in that position, a lot of control, a lot of say in everything that goes on. There was a lot of discussion over the last 6 to 8 months about the board taking more active participation. Whether that happens or not, I think that we owe it to everyone and ourselves just to take a look at the parts of the policy and procedures that pertain to our involvement, and also perhaps the charter. I'm not looking for anything specific for next week, just to start the discussion so that it continues on.
Well, if I might add, I think
Yes.
that when we look at the charter, that's something we forward to the charter committee. If there's some things that we see as a board that we would like to incorporate in the charter review, I think that's very important. I think over the last 6 to 8 months, there has been a lot of talk about what was put in the charter a few years ago and how to address that now going forward, seeing what might have taken place or what not. So I agree with you 100%, but I think we look at our procedures, but also as we look at the charter, what we want to make suggestions going forward for the charter committee.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think, also, a lot of talk and speculation has been made about the finance committee and their active role and how to proceed going forward. Again, that's something we could look at on the charter, to see what there is, because, they have a very limited role, and I think with the legislation, they wanted to be more active. I think that's something we look at also moving forward. Again, but that's stuff we would be forwarding to the charter committee as far as what they would like to see. Again, you want to get feedback from the finance committee, their take on it. I think, the more boards that are involved, obviously it affects the boards the most, the charter and how we operate. So I think that's something we look at collaboratively.
Yep.
and move that forward into the charter and bylaw review. But I mean, that's going to be a long road. But again, we can start the conversation on what we want. People can start what we like to see, actually, what we want. We like to see changed, and I think that's a very positive step forward.
Mr. Chair, also, just to continue, changed or just reiterated where things lie and with who makes the decisions about what, et cetera. Barbara and I attended the meeting earlier tonight on the Charter Bylaw Review Committee. By the charter, they have 10 months to do the review and make a presentation to the town. So their projected finishing time is next May for the annual town meeting. So I think the sooner that boards, the Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee, whomever, we do our work and we get what we would like to see and recommend to them, then that helps them as they go through their work, so they can get it to them as soon as possible and go from there.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
You're chomping at the bit to say something about this.
Well, with regard to the Finance Committee, I don't know if it would be appropriate as a select board to make recommendations on what authority the Finance Committee has. perhaps as individuals, I think that would be fine, but as a select board, I don't think we should.
No, that's
have
why I
it.
said we'd have them
Right.
submit their own thing.
Right.
So no, I'm not
Okay.
recommending
All
that
right,
we
if I
make that.
all right,
Yeah, it
I
was a little-
misunderstood that, okay.
No, no,
all
no,
right.
no, what we want, no, I want them to do their own thing, that's
They
why I
so
said.
choose, yeah.
Yeah, collaborative, that's why I meant, they would put their own thing
So
forward.
they review it as well, okay.
Absolutely. Any, is that it?
Yeah, thank you.
Got any thoughts on this?
Or anything else particular that?
Particular that you want to see?
Okay, I have a couple thoughts. Number one, public comment. Very important to me that I have the opportunity to hear from people, the ones that bother to come to our meetings, before I take a vote. Sometimes there's twists and turns to any agenda, and it doesn't happen until that moment where it affects certain people's lives in the way that they view the government. I really need to hear from them before I vote. It has really bothered me that we are not giving them the opportunity to at least speak and be heard. I feel if I'm elected to represent the people, I can't do that until I hear them.
Mr. Chairman, I also think might be important and, good for us as a board, maybe just personally, to each review Robert's Rules of Order, since we do follow that. A lot of the procedures and how we run the meetings is run from Robert's Rules of Order. I think the policy does state that we follow Robert's Rules of Order. So, a lot of the times, when we make a decision on, how the agenda moves, it's because of Robert's Rules of Order. So I think that would also be important to look at. Obviously, there's nothing we can change about how Robert's Rules of Order is, but we can change, I guess, the way that we follow it.
The other thing that I wanted to talk about is the search committee for a permanent town manager. I think we need to start looking and reaching out to people to send a letter of interest. Let's give ourselves the time for people to send a letter of interest that they'd like to serve on that committee. Mr. Lynch also mentioned to me it's probably inappropriate for people from the Board of Selectmen to serve on that committee. That this is something that the community needs to actively participate in, and they need to buy into it before they approach and present their findings to the board.
It's actually on the agenda for next week, so that's up and coming. Yes, per Mr. Lynch's suggestion.
I agree with I'd like to see the policy change regarding public comment and how that fits into our agenda. I think having it at the very beginning when we haven't discussed anything is really not really fair. I don't know how we change that so that as matters come up and we're discussing them, to allow the public to comment when it's appropriate. That's my biggest concern. I'm not sure how we change it.
I'm obviously not sure how to change it either. I know
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
we've looked
that's
at,
my biggest
we've looked at
concern.
before, because what happens, what tends to happen is when agendas are sent out, most people get the information that they need to ask questions prior to you coming to this meeting. They should have the information coming in about what we're going to discuss, and that's when they generally would make their comments.
Mr. Chair.
But a lot of times, though, it's not until we start discussing it that questions come up. It's not, you don't know at the very beginning until you start discussing, and I would like to see more public comment after we discuss a topic. So,
Okay.
that's what I-
Of course, because we share the microphone.
And keeping in mind, along with Robert's rules, the chair always has the authority if somebody should get repetitive, if somebody, should get vindictive, to stop at any point. But it's really for our benefit to hear from the people that we represent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to put that, everybody's agreed on looking at public comment. So we will do that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the actual reason why we're here, which is the draft of the special town meeting warrant. As I announced last week, and maybe I'll re-announce, the special education transportation issue has been solved. We did sign the warrant. The school department, I know, signed the warrant, and the vendor was paid. The vendors were paid. So I'm glad that issue was resolved rather quickly and within your first day, so kudos to you and your team, and working with everybody else, so I'm glad to hear that. So now I'm going to turn this part over to you, because you have the draft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm so sorry, excuse me, Mr. Chair, if I may, on that point, I have been asked by constituents where that money was found. Without going into details, can someone just...
Sure.
Thank you.
I will do my best. As I said at the outset, my background at the outset being when I met with the screening committee. My background is a manager. My background is as a manager who has, if I may say, some great strength in municipal finance. But I am not an accountant. I rely upon other people that can work the books. And in working, one of the reasons I was adamant about bringing Ms. Wright with me on this assignment is that she has tremendous experience with Munis, working with it for, you know, I think 15 or 20 years, and she has tremendous experience in closing books and taking care of all of the necessary accounting aspects of municipal finance. Going through the books with the town accountant, Ms. Allard, they were able to identify a number of encumbrances that were not necessary, that in fact bills had already been paid, or encumbrances that were no longer needed. And so working out all of those, you know, using the tools that Munis has that she was familiar with, they were able to identify these, close them out, and that freed up the money to actually make those payments.
Thank you.
Yep. So that leads us, though, to what our next priority was. As we get ready to close out the books for fiscal year 15, we knew that there were some departments and some expenses that were coming up that were problematic. Specifically, the veterans' benefits, which this is a problem that many communities are having because there's been such an uptick of veterans coming onto the rolls. That was a deficit that looked to be close to $100,000. And I'm using round numbers now because, you know, it's not going to be until we actually get into June 30th that we'll know what the specific numbers are, because, you know, anything could happen. But it's roughly $95,000 to $100,000 that we expect to be, that account to be in a deficit. The unemployment account of the town is a little higher than $80,000.
Beg pardon?
A little higher than $80,000.
Thank you.
So that too is a problem for the town. Snow and ice deficit is somewhere in the vicinity of $220,000 right now. Well, and it's not going to snow again, so that's my round number, my memory. We are expecting a reimbursement from FEMA next year, and that's about $37,000, $38,000, I think. So that still leaves us with a deficit there of somewhere in the vicinity of $190,000. We'd like to close that gap so that it doesn't have to be raised next fiscal year, in fiscal year 16, because we already have some issues in that fiscal year. Right now, we're about $63,000 out of balance that the Department of Revenue is aware of and we're aware of. That could change, could get better, could get worse as we get into the fiscal year, but we don't want to add any problems to that. So we'd like to close some of that snow and ice deficit. Again, using the tools that Munis has and combing through the FY15 budget, we have realized that there's about $275,000 in health insurance premiums that is not necessary to be spent on health insurance. We will be up to date on health insurance and have that excess within that account. So if we take that $100,000, that $275,000, give or take, we can put that towards the veterans' benefits, the unemployment, and hopefully about $100,000 of the snow and ice deficit, which will then leave us still with a snow and ice deficit, but something that's more manageable. What we haven't talked about at all here is that the elephant in the room that I know everyone here is aware of, and that's the health insurance trust fund. That's still, there's money that is owed to that, to claims that are still coming in under the old self-insured plan. And that's in the several $100,000 range that we need to work on. In all likelihood, we're looking at our options of how we would recommend that the town move forward with that, but that doesn't have to happen right now. We have time to kind of figure that out. But I think this is good news. It eliminates a deficit, some deficits that otherwise would have carried over into the fiscal year, which we would have then had to either borrow under the deficit, under the special legislation of deficit borrowing, or we would have to hit the stabilization fund for this amount. And we would prefer to do it now and get it done. Mm-hmm. So I know that one of the issues on June 30th is it's the beginning of summer, or a week or two into summer, because the solstice is coming up this weekend, that we need to have people come out and vote at this town meeting and help get this matter resolved.
At current projections that we had coming into this end of the fiscal year, the health trust fund was coming in at about $400,000.
Right.
Is it still in and around?
It's around $300,000 to $500,000, so $400,000 is a good number. 3 to 5,
okay. Right. But 400,000 is what was projected, so
Yeah.
we're in that range.
Right.
Okay. And the balances that I know you're ballparking, I remember, but I think these are about close to accurate as we're going to get right now.
Yeah, a couple of these I have sort of right down to pennies,
Right.
if you will, but
Okay.
I'm a little hesitant to say exact pennies
Oh,
at
that's
this
fine.
point.
That's fine. And so you've been busy.
I have been busy. I've been busy working with this. Again, I have some people working on this, but I've been working with the departments and trying to line ourselves up for where we can save money this year and where we can make reductions or changes next year. At the same time, ensuring that the services of the town are still protected.
Mr. Chair? Through the chair to Mr. Lynch, there was some talk over the past few months about, I think I have this right, we had, on the health insurance trust, we had given them a deposit,
Working deposit?
a working deposit, and there was a question of, could we get that back or apply it to something? Would you be able to say anything about that at this point?
I can't say anything about at this point.
Okay.
That's still, what we are going to be doing, and I've spoken to a couple members of the Finance Committee about this. We are going to be having I'm going to reach out, and actually there's already been some reach out, but I think it falls within the manager's responsibility to undertake some analysis of that. So I have a group that I've worked with for 25 years. They're really the best in the state to come in and do an audit, essentially, of our, and provide some consulting services for us to track that money down. That's, I think that was one of the, we need to make sure that the reinsurance that the town had bought actually pays for the claims that it was supposed to cover. We want to make sure that every dime that the town should get, it will get. And then you have the working deposit, which is there to cover claims that come in so that they can hit that.
Right. Okay.
So.
All right, thank you.
Any more questions on this? No? No? Okay, so we have the third article, which is you see, to see if the town will vote to increase the number of members to the newly appointed Bylaws and Charter Review Committee from 5 to 9 in order to provide a broader citizen representation and participation in reviewing these two important documents. Said members shall be appointed by the town moderator, submitted by citizens petition. So that's the second article on the warrant, actually the third, but the committee reports are first. So that's basically what, at this point, we have to look at. And as they work through the numbers, we will be having our public hearing. That's next week, right?
I think you can have it on your 23rd. We can add it unless you want to meet next week, but we could add it. I
On
don't
the
see why we
20 on
can't do it on the 23rd.
Yeah, I'm,
Just to do your votes, your recommendations for the articles. And the Finance Committee is having their public hearing on Wednesday, the 24th.
24th, yes.
so does the board want to have that at that time and vote on it?
I would say yes. That way, we're already meeting, we don't have to try to fit another meeting in.
Right.
And with just a few articles, it won't take us very long.
Yeah, so,
So, yeah.
you good with that?
That's
Are you good with that? Okay. So what we'll do is we have to open early for that, right, public hearing?
It's not necessarily a public hearing for this. The selectmen don't have a public hearing on the warrant itself. It's the Finance Committee who has the official public hearing.
Okay, so we can discuss and vote on it next,
Yep, I will post
As
it
an agenda item.
Yes.
yeah, as an agenda item.
Great.
Okay. Awesome. So we will do that then. We're on record.
Yep.
Other than that, I look for a motion to adjourn.
Before that, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
As I'm looking through these documents, just for, I guess it's my OCD coming out.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, we need a motion to post the warrant. Sorry.
Close it first, right, and then
Finalize.
Finalize the warrant. Motion to finalize the warrant. Can you get that done, please?
motion to finalize the warrant.
Second, please.
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye also. Thank you.
One more vote to post.
And a motion to post the warrant, please, as presented.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Seconded.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye again. Thank you.
Can I just pass this around? There's 7 original copies that the town clerk is waiting for, unless we're almost done. She's here, and you guys can just sign it.
Yep, we'll sign and
You
then,
can close.
Yeah. Just, Mr. Chair.
sure.
On the warrant, it refers to Mr. Lynch as 2 different titles. Can we just, for clarification's sake, acting, okay. So acting town manager is the official title?
Yes, it is.
All right, thank you. So interim should be out, okay.
All of these?
Yeah, you sign that page there, and I'll run up if we're almost done and print out that one page where it references him.
Right, but
As
we're saying,
interim instead
we're
of
signing
acting.
all of these?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
alrighty,
Yeah, we need 7 originals.
alrighty.
Any final thoughts before we adjourn? I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. We are adjourned at 7:37